Hello, welcome to Dan's Projects and Restoration. So if you saw last time, we got some free jet skis. That's 1, 2, the other one's over here, 3. And there's another one that we're gonna pick up sometime in the next coming weeks. Ignore the traffic over there, it's loud. But all 3 of these and the 4th one were free 99, including the jet ski trailer, which if you saw in the first episode, it was pretty sketchy getting home. We blew the rear tire, but we only had to go a mile, so we're good to go. Working on some lawnmowers. You'll hear the, what's that called, ultrasonic cleaner, cleaning the carburetor in the background. But in the meantime, we're working on our free 1990 Yamaha Waverunner. So we deemed that there were some issues with this engine. Found the issue was the starter, so ended up removing the engine, snapped both starter bolts off, decided it was time to get those drilled. So we got some redneck starter bolt studs on there to keep that from happening again. Brand new starter, because we found out the old starter would not spin. So then we put a new starter in, and then I thought, oh, before I put this thing back together, I'm gonna bench test it. So we put the engine on the ground, put some jumper cables up on it, and determined that the starter was spinning, but the starter Bendix was not throwing out. So what we have here is an example of a starter Bendix that does throw out. So that sucker goes right back in here and sits in the rear behind the flywheel, which has been removed. So we got that far, and I realized, okay, time for a new starter Bendix. So I ordered one of these. This is $18. This was $59. No, $69 actually. So in order to get to that, we removed our flywheel, found a stator, rusty stator. So I determined that this has spark. You'll see some clips of that in here too. But we thought, we're gonna replace everything in the bottom of this case area. Why not put a brand new stator in it too? It would suck to get this thing all running and lose spark because it had some moisture in it. So what we did is we bought all new parts. So what we've got here, before you put the starter Bendix on, you have to first grease it on the back before you put it against the case. There's a washer. There's the part number for you guys on the washer. I don't remember what company. There you go. I don't remember what company I ordered that from, but I will put the link in the description. And if I forget to do any of that, just comment and I will get back to you. After that, on the nose of this, in order to keep this Bendix going back in, we've got a couple springs, one spring and a couple washers. So this spring actually sits in the case, the stator cover case right here. And what you got to do is you put one washer in the bottom, grease it, put the spring in there, grease it, and then put the other washer on top, grease that, and then you put your stator cover gasket. We got a brand new one of those because the other one was pretty ugly, $13. And you squeeze it all together after you put your new stator cover on. You got your timing mark right there. All you got to do is line that up with the tick mark on here. We'll show you that soon. And we'll have this thing back to ripping. So let's get to it. Oh, wait, before I forget, we got more parts. So pulling the fuel pump apart to get to the carburetor. Actually, that's not true. When I was pulling the engine out of the jet ski to get the starter issue rectified, we determined that the fuel pump decided to snap off a little nub. So brand new fuel pump, I think it was 20 bucks. And then I realized that the spring was gone. Ended up finding it in the bottom of the jet ski about a week later. But I ordered a new fuel pump rebuild kit, which was $18. Here's a part number for you if you're interested in that. For a Waverunner 650. And we're gonna go ahead and put it all back together and make it run and then go jump stuff. Let's do it. All right, household goods came. All this stuff's gonna go up on these walls. Their bike came too, woohoo! But in other news, parts came for the Yamaha. If you watched the last episode, we got a free Yamaha Waverunner 650 Delta, and we got some parts for it. We got some new plugs because these look garbage after me putting PB Blaster and a whole bunch of crap in there. We put a new starter on it. That was a whole deal. It looks a little redneck right now, but it works great. We basically made our own what are those called? Studs out of some leftover crap. What else? We're gonna find out today if the stator's good. I have a feeling it's not, but hopefully it is. After we put the new starter in, we realized that the starter Bendix is bad. I'll show you why. This is a new one. It was $18. We got a new stator cover as well, so that's pretty neat. But let's go ahead. I'm gonna prop you guys up and show you what's wrong with the old one. Here we are. Got the majority of the gasket off. I got a little more I got to do right now. Just been scraping it off with a razor blade and some brake cleaner. Obviously, you don't want to shoot brake cleaner or anything that'll wash the walls of the pistons. So what I've been doing is just getting the majority of it with the razor blades. But here's how I did the starter setup. A little janky, but it should be stronger. So the hardware store I went to didn't have the bolts I needed. So I used carriage bolts because I'm a redneck. Not the right way, but it works. So took 2 nuts. This is a 3-inch long and a 2.5-inch long. These are stainless steel carriage bolts, and 2 nuts on top to tighten these, and you got a stud all the way through, and I was able to slide the starter right on, and just got to correct these suckers tight, and it's perfect. It's gonna be perfect, baby. So we've got a ground off a jump box hooked to the starter bolt that we just hooked on, and power to the starter. I wanted to test it out before I put this thing back in here, and thank God I did, because listen to what happened. Nothing. So we know the starter works. I pulled it out. It's meshing with the gears, so we know that the starter Bendix is not throwing out. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this case off. I'm learning so much. Oh, that's our problem right there. Oh, tasty. Oh, that's fantastic, isn't it? Let's get this hammer out of the way for you. Oh, yuck. Well, I guess that's what I get. Looks like it still wants to work. Let's see. All right, here we are. I got a steering wheel puller and some bolts, and we're gonna see if this thing's gonna pop off. Get a little bit more. So it seems like the solution for everything on this jet ski is a sledgehammer. I just tightened it up and gave it a bop with that big sledge, and it popped right loose. So pretty cool. Let's go ahead and pull this flywheel off. She's ugly. Holy cow. I wonder if this stator's gonna work. Look at all that crap. Oh, no shit. I think this is the washer from the bolt that's missing. How can that be possible? Holy crap. What is all this garbage? Hope it's not metal shavings. That's why our spring's not popping out, our Bendix. So that's what the starter gear rides on. But this is supposed to kick forward, and then this starter gear catches the tooth on the flywheel. But she ain't moving. This is an $18 part, so I already ordered it and it's on the way. So that's pretty neat. All right, so this is how a starter Bendix works. So this side right here sits against the stator cover, and this is what the starter gear hooks onto. So as this spins, it gets thrown outward and then catches with the flywheel and starts the engine, and then goes back to where it's supposed to. I had this thing sitting in this is the old bad one, sitting in a, what's it called? A little vat of PB Blaster. And even after that, because I was not hopeful that that was the correct one since it was so cheap, but anyways, I still can't even get this thing to throw all the way out. So, pretty crazy stuff. Let's go ahead and put it all back together. All right, so I scraped off all the old gasket off the stator cover, and let's go ahead and slap this sucker back on. All right, I went ahead and put some anti-seize on there. We're gonna go ahead and stuff this sucker back in there and tighten it up. All right, here goes nothing. So we're gonna ground this sucker out up here. Make sure this thing's off before I get close to it. Hook up the power on the starter. Fuck yeah. Very cool. That sounds awesome. Let's do a compression test. Cool. So I got the compression tester hooked onto the right cylinder, and we're going to go ahead and see what we get. Holy crap. Almost 130 psi. Alright, left side. Moment of truth, baby. We're pulling the jugs off. Alright. 130. We're gonna be riding this puppy. Alright, thanks. Alright, Jetskis in the garage. I just tossed the engine in and rehooked the fuse box back up. I wanted to make sure this thing has spark. The stator was looking pretty ugly. I know I just kind of talked about this, but before I bolt this thing all back in, I wanted to make sure that it was actually going to make spark. So the cool part is I kind of ghetto rigged it, so the ground wire, which normally goes to the back of the starter, is just hooked up to this little head bolt here. And I figured why jump the starter? I can just make sure everything else is cooperating, and it does. So I hooked the power to the starter. The pump's not even, the drive line's not even connected. Exhaust is off, all that garbage. But the cool part is the jump box is on, acting like a battery. And let's hit the start button, see what happens. Hell yeah. So let's use a spark tester and see if we got any spark. All right, testing one cylinder. Let's see. Spark. Hell yeah. All right, let's test the other one. Strong spark. Very cool. So we got compression. Say check.
Check.
Good. We got compression. That's good. As you saw, 130 psi in each cylinder. We got spark, right? Say check.
Check.
It's good. Got that. Do we have fuel?
Check.
No check.
No check.
You blew it. So, as you saw earlier, if you were paying attention, this is a fuel pump. But the fuel pump, this is a new one. That is an old one. This is broken. So, unfortunately, the spring that sits under this and makes this pulse fuel, he's gone. So, need a spring for that. It's on the way here, and then we can rebuild that fuel pump. It comes with the new diaphragms too. That'll bolt right on here. The other thing I noticed when I was hitting the starter is the starter Bendix wasn't kicking back, and I watched a YouTube video, and I think there's actually a spring that I'm missing on the front of the Bendix that throws it back. Could be wrong, but I'm gonna do some more research on that. We got to tighten these suckers down, and what else do we have to do? Got to clean up this surface, but just a couple things, and then we'll put the shims back in and bolt this sucker back down once we get the fuel system all back together. Put the new gaskets on, spark plugs, new plugs in. What else do we have to do? Yeah, hook up the lines, and then close up that fuse box, drain out this disgusting fuel tank, and put some premix in this sucker. But it's coming together. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Woo!
Dude, sit.
Woo! All right, new stator is in. You got your timing mark right there, so we go ahead and line that up with that little arrow. Got some anti-seize on these two screws, and I cleaned up the whole inside of the case as good as I could. And now we're gonna put some fancy crap on this to make it waterproof. Not sure what it's gonna be yet. Probably just some grease. And then next thing we're gonna do is pull that little tab off of this old stator so I can fasten it here. And then we're gonna pop our flywheel on after we get our other parts together. Okay. So I greased up so we got some hoop here. Actually, I'll make that. It's already greased. Okay. We got some grease on the back side of this. Hold the washer on, and in the grooves that lead the starter, we're going to take a tiny bit, put it on the starter gear itself. And I've got my washer on the back. It's actually a Kawasaki part, but it works. I'm going to go ahead and slide my Bendix in. That sounds promising. Oh, making poop noises. We're going to put some grease on the teeth here. All the happy spots. These gears are going to be meshing a lot. Nice job, Ever. That's good. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put the flywheel on. I'm actually gonna put a little bit of grease in this area here. I've got anti-seize on the flywheel bolt, and we will torque this down. I don't remember what it is, but I'll put the number right here. And we'll go from there. Thanks. All right, if you're a redneck and you're doing this on your garage floor like I am, then you're gonna need some special tools. So we got a torque wrench. The manual calls for 70 Newton pounds. Anyways, it translates to 51 foot-pounds of torques. And I just jammed something redneck in there too to keep it from spinning over, and put the plugs in to make it even a little bit more difficult. So, good stuff. She's all torqued down. I've got the case with the new gasket, a little bit of grease just for funsies, some in the dowel pin holes. I got the washer in the bottom, small washer in the bottom. Then there's a spring behind that, and then another washer on top, and then some grease to keep it all together. So let's put it together. All right, just to make sure everything rolls over smoothly after we got it all back together, we got it hooked to the jump box. Seems pretty happy. It's cool. All right, went ahead and tossed the engine in. I went and put the shims back in all 4 spots. I marked the engine there. I got it hooked to the, there we go. Oh, hang on. There we go. Anyways, you can't see it, but there's a tick mark right down where my thumb is, and that's an alignment for these two, so I know I took it out the same way, and it seems to be pretty happy in there. Tons of compression. Let's go ahead and pull these plugs out. You guys can see how smooth it spins that drive shaft. Cleaned up the gas tank and got most of the water out of the bottom that was sitting in there from when I washed it, and got some fancy new blue fuel line to replace all that crap. And we are gonna hook the fuel pump back on. I didn't want to snap it off again when I put the engine in, so we'll fuel pump's all assembled, and we're gonna pop that on, put all the fuel lines back on, and what else do we need to do? Hook this sucker back up. I siphoned out all the old crappy 2-cycle oil. Got a brandy new battery, a little bit smaller than I thought it was, but should be okay. Yeah, we just got to make this thing make spark and give it the fuel it deserves. Pretty exciting stuff. So it's 10:57. Oh, there we go. Currently siphoning some 2-stroke fuel out of the dirt bike. I'm going to dump some down these cylinders because it doesn't seem to want to get fuel. And we're going to fire this bad bitch up. We got everything back together. We got fuel pump hooked up, exhaust is back on, fuel lines hooked up, fuse box all back together. Check spark. It's got spark. Drive shaft appears to be lined up. Yeah, let's see if this thing fires up. Cool. All right, it's firing. I forgot to put the throttle and choke cable on. That's good. Very cool.